There is a version of you that went to sleep last night and never woke up. The thing reading these words right now, the thing that feels continuous, the thing that feels like you, may not be the same entity that existed yesterday. And the unsettling part isn't that this might be true. The unsettling part is that if it were true, you would have absolutely no way of knowing. You woke up this morning with memories, feelings, a sense of being the same person who fell asleep. But those memories, those feelings, that sense of continuity, all of them were generated by a brain that spent the last 8 hours in a state that, by almost every measurable neurological criterion, looks nothing like being alive. Your consciousness disappeared last night. Something woke up in its place, and it remembered being you. So here's the question that neuroscience, philosophy, and physics have been quietly wrestling with for decades, and that nobody has been able to fully answer. Is that something actually you? Because here's the wild part. The science says the answer might be no. Let's start with what seems like an obvious rebuttal. Of course you're the same person. You have the same brain, the same memories, the same body. Continuity of self is just a basic fact of being alive. Except it isn't. Here's what actually happens to your brain when you sleep. Within minutes of falling asleep, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-awareness, rational thought, and your sense of being a unified person, goes almost completely offline. The thalamus, which acts as the brain's relay station for sensory information, effectively closes. The brain's ability to integrate information, the very process that neuroscientists believe generates conscious experience, drops to near zero. During deep sleep, your brain is not resting. It is not quietly ticking over. It is producing zero subjective experience. There is nobody home, not a dimmed version of you, not a sleeping version of you, nothing. This is not philosophy. This is measurable neuroscience, and it raises a question that most people never think to ask. If consciousness is what makes you you, and consciousness completely disappears every night, then what exactly wakes up in the morning? Here's where it gets stranger. The answer that seems obvious, that your brain provides the continuity even when consciousness pauses, runs directly into one of the oldest and most unresolved problems in philosophy. It's called the Ship of Theseus. The ancient Greeks posed this question. If you have a ship, and you replace every single plank of that ship one by one over time, is it still the same ship? What makes something the same thing across time? Now apply that to you. Right now, your body is replacing approximately 3.8 million cells per second. The atoms that made up your body 7 years ago are almost entirely gone. The neurons in your brain are constantly rewiring, pruning old connections and forming new ones based on every experience you have. The person who went to sleep last night had slightly different neural connections than the person who woke up this morning, because sleep is when the brain consolidates memories and physically restructures itself. You are not the same physical object you were yesterday, not even close. So, if the matter has changed, and consciousness paused, what exactly is the thread of identity that connects the person who fell asleep to the person who woke up? The answer that feels most obvious is memory. You remember being you. That continuity of memory is what makes you the same person across time. But here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. We know that memory is not a recording. Every time you retrieve a memory, your brain reconstructs it from fragments, filling in gaps, updating it with new information, and then resaving it in a slightly altered form. This is called memory reconsolidation, and it means that your memories are not a reliable record of who you were. They are a story your brain tells about who you were, edited every single time it is accessed. The thread of identity you're relying on to prove you're the same person is itself a reconstruction, a narrative, a best guess. Now think about what happens under general anesthesia. When you go under general anesthesia, consciousness doesn't dim. It doesn't slow down. It stops. Completely. There is no experience of time passing, no dreams, no awareness of any kind. One moment you are counting backward from 10, and the next moment you are waking up in a recovery room with hours having passed that you have zero access to. Philosopher Derek Parfit spent much of his career arguing that this kind of discontinuity in consciousness raises a genuinely serious question about personal identity. If the stream of consciousness can be completely interrupted, if there is a period of total non-existence, what is the meaningful difference between that and dying, and being replaced by someone with your memories? Parfit's own conclusion, which he arrived at after decades of careful philosophical work, was that personal identity is not what matters. What matters is psychological continuity, the chain of memories and personality traits that connect one moment to the next. But he was also honest about what that means. It means that you, in any deep metaphysical sense, may not survive sleep any more than you survive death. The difference might be one of degree, not of kind. Here's the part of this video that nobody expects. This isn't just a philosophical puzzle. It has direct implications for how neuroscience understands consciousness right now. The leading scientific framework for explaining conscious experience is called integrated information theory, developed by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi. The core idea is that consciousness arises from the brain's ability to integrate information across different regions simultaneously. The more integrated the information processing, the higher the level of consciousness. During deep sleep, integrated information processing drops to near zero. Under general anesthesia, it drops to near zero. Under certain conditions of brain damage, it drops to near zero. By this framework, the question of whether you survive sleep isn't a metaphor. It's a measurable neurological event. Something that generates consciousness exists before sleep. Something that generates consciousness exists after sleep. Whether those two somethings are meaningfully the same entity, science currently has no way to confirm. And here is the part that changes how you see today. If you are not certain that you are the same person who fell asleep last night, then every version of you that ever existed only had one day. Yesterday's version of you experienced everything it was ever going to experience. It went to sleep, and it did not wake up. You are the version that woke up today. You have inherited its memories, its relationships, its unfinished business. But if Parfit and the neuroscience are pointing in the same direction, the entity that is reading these words right now may be experiencing its first and only day of existence. Which means the question isn't whether you've already died. The question is, what are you going to do with the only day you can be certain you have? We don't have a clean answer to any of this. Neither does neuroscience. Neither does philosophy. The people who have spent their entire careers on this question have not resolved it. And that might be the most important thing this video can leave you with. The self you are so certain of, the continuous, unbroken thread of identity you carry through every moment of your life, rests on assumptions that the science cannot fully support. Tonight, when you fall asleep, something will end. Tomorrow morning, something will begin. It will have your memories. It will have your face. It will feel exactly like you. Whether it is you is a question nobody alive has been able to answer. If you want to keep pulling on threads like this one, like and subscribe. More videos will be coming every week. And as always, go beyond theory.